to solve this data sufficiency question, let's go ahead and consider each statement separately first and then together if needed. Before diving into the statements separately, let's go ahead and extract the information from the question before we go ahead and do those individually. The question asks us if lines R and S are parallel to each other, is the slope of line S negative? Now, before we dive into the statements, we want to recall that if lines R and S are parallel to each other, this implies that they have the same slope. And if two lines have the same slope, that means that if we're looking for whether the slope of S is negative, this means we're essentially looking for, is the slope of R negative? So either of those will get us our answer to the question. If we can find out whether the slope of line S is negative or the slope of line R is negative, either or will do to answer the question, since we know the slopes are going to be equal here. So let's go ahead and let's dive into statement 1. Statement 1 tells us that R passes through the point 5, 1. So let's just consider a couple of cases. Let's draw a graph. Doesn't have to be a perfect graph, just a quick sketch to get an idea. So if R passes through 5, 1, imagine we have our point 5, 1 somewhere over here. And we know that our line passes through that, R does at least. So let's just pick another color. We're not really given 2 points that R passes through, and that's really what we need in order to define the slope of a line. So if we envision any of the lines that could pass through here, we could have a line that goes this way, and that would be negative slope. But we could also have a line that goes this way, and that would be positive slope. We could have a vertical line that passes through this point, horizontal line, and since we don't know exactly where R lies and what direction it's pointing, or what the slope is for that, we can't really conclude what the slope of R would be. Now, since we're only given information about R, if we can't find the slope of R, we're not going to be able to find the slope of S, since we have no other information about S either. So this statement alone is not sufficient. So we can actually categorize that as not sufficient, and we can eliminate answer choice A and D, since alone we can't conclude our answer. Let's go ahead and let's clear the board, and let's consider statement 2. And let's go ahead and cross that guy out again. So statement 2, we're told that line S passes through the point 5, negative 1. So again, we can do kind of a similar deal as what we did last time. Just a quick sketch to give us an idea. Line S passes through the point 5, negative 1. So we have a point down here. And again, we run into the same sort of issue here, that we don't really know where S is pointing. We could have a line that passes through and have a negative slope for this point, but we could also have one that passes through and gives us a positive slope, or an undefined slope as a vertical line, or 0 as a horizontal line. So since we have nothing else narrowing us down, we still don't really know where S would be and what the slope would be. So this statement alone is also not sufficient, meaning that if we look at our answer choices, we can eliminate answer choice B, since statement 2 alone is not sufficient. Now we'll have to consider the statements together. Since we're not able to find an answer choice with them independently, we need to go ahead and consider both statements together. So statement 1 and statement 2. Just kind of thinking about our graph for a second and remembering what our statements told us, now joining them together. We have our 5, negative 1 point. Then we also have our 5, positive 1 point. So thinking about our options here, we know that R passes through this point here, 5, 1, and S passes through 5, negative 1. But we could have something where maybe we have R passes through this way and has a positive slope. That would mean that S would kind of mirror that, but down here. And those guys would be parallel. But that doesn't account for the other options where maybe we have, let's take a simple example, like what if it's, whoops, what if it goes the other way? Something like this. And then we could have S kind of mirror that down here, passing through its point. Whoops. Gonna get that a little bit more accurate. There we go. And these two could be parallel. So we don't really know, having only one point for each line doesn't give us enough information to tell us which direction they're pointing in. We do know that they're parallel, so if we knew one line, we could find the other, but since we only know one point, we don't know the orientation of these lines. So together, these statements are actually still not sufficient. And we can eliminate answer choice C, and our final answer choice would be answer choice E. Statements 1 and 2 together are not sufficient.